The guy spending over $2 million a year on his health with the mission to never die has got to have some pretty crazy stuff in his medicine cabinet. And in this video, I'm going to teach you guys exactly which parts of his stack I'm taking for myself without spending $2 million. Taking over 100 different compounds daily between pills, peptides, and pharmaceuticals. And by the end of this video, we should understand how to get $2 million results spending a fraction of the cost. This is the most extreme, well-documented, transparent anti-aging experiment I've ever seen online. And to tell you the truth, this is exactly what I would do if I had enough funds to do it. This guy's doing things like taking mushrooms, psychedelics, DMT, and then documenting the medical results. Talk about living my dream life. Well, let's get started with the good, bad, and everything in between. But before we do, it's important to note that I'm not a doctor and nothing I say in this video should be considered medical advice. And if you're going to follow through with any of these treatments, make sure you're only doing so under direct supervision of a medical professional. As always, these videos are purely for science and your entertainment. Now, let's get into it. This $2 million a year science project isn't just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's an incredibly well-documented journey that posts every step along the way. MRIs, biomarkers, blood panels, and what's really interesting about the health and wellness space is oftentimes the people that are doing the most, the extreme protocols, are typically the ones that have the most unhealthy internal because our system becomes so overworked. In this case, it's been really interesting to watch Bryan navigate his blood and his biomarkers and directly supplement exactly based on the results that they show, as opposed to just taking everything that's considered good and healthy. This is where I see a huge gap in the health and wellness industry, where a lot of people just take things because they hear someone say it's good versus actually identifying what their issues are based on their blood work, labs, tests, to understand exactly what they should be supplementing for instead of just supplementing for the sake of supplementing. The main area that has become abundantly present in my research, and it looks like the research of many others, is that our mitochondria and cellular health are probably the most leading factors when it comes to your overall health, well-being, and performance. So let's start with his stack at the cellular level, which are his first two peptides that he uses, which are Pinealon and Pinealon. He pairs these two peptides together for two direct purposes, one of them being just overall anti-aging and longevity, the other one being specifically targeting his immune health. Even going as far as saying the immune part of this function is actually one of the biggest contributors to your overall health, longevity, and how long you're going to live. Think of your immune system as a high school football team. All the players are in the physical prime of their life, and they've got their coach who keeps them jacked up in the weight room, running them till they're about to pass out, and keeps them in that prime physical shape. That coach is our thymus, and he's coaching up our immune system, all our players, to be as strong as they need to be in each position. As our bodies get older, our coach retires, and now we've got a team of high school football players who have to coach themselves. All of a sudden, Bobby, the running back, doesn't want to come to practice anymore. He wants to hang out with his girlfriend. Jimmy on the O-line wants to hang out and smoke some pot. No one's coaching the team. There's no structure, so they're not improving anymore, and they start to get sloppy. This is exactly what happens to our immune systems after our formative years. Bringing in these two peptides is like bringing in a new coach to get everybody back in line. The Pinealon is studied for lengthening the telomeres on those immune cells, making them easier to divide and replicate. This alone, based on the studies that have been done on this drug in Russia, have shown to reverse epigenetic aging. When we can prop up our thymus again, our coach, our guy who's going to be instructing all the immune cells what to do and where to go, our bodies can function the way they were in our adolescence, even in adulthood. Way better immune health and extreme resistance to age-related disease and decline across the board. My personal take on both of these, I think they're both incredible compounds, and I've seen a ton of results myself on my own Pinealon protocols. I would rank this combo a 9 out of 10. I definitely take this for my own protocol, and the Russian studies that were done on it definitely back up a lot of the points that he makes. Next on the list is cerebrolysine, a brain peptide that is gaining a ton of traction on the internet. Sticking with our high school example, the brain is the actual school itself. Now imagine we've got a rundown high school. Mine looked like this. Dim flickering lights, damaged desks, nothing's been replaced since the 80s. People who've experienced extreme cognitive decline, that could often feel like what their brain is made of. Cerebrolysine would be like the janitorial crew that comes in, screws in new light bulbs, replaces the desks, undents the lockers, and sweeps all the floors to give us a sparkly new shiny school. But here's the caveat. That janitor crew is full of drug addicts, and they might be doing meth in the bathroom with the students. Here's what I mean by that. Cerebrolysine, a lot of people don't realize, comes from pig brain. You heard that right. Pig brain. And they're using this to put in our brains to establish new connections and increase neuroplasticity. Now, I will say, there's absolutely 100% people that are reporting clearer thinking, sharper focus, better memory, all the things you would want from a brain peptide. Many people even cite that it is the strongest one they've ever used, even compared to Semax, dihexa, or anything else. Where it gets a little bit scary is some people talk about their brain not being the way it was before. There are scenarios where people are growing too much connection, and it's often convoluted and creating deformities. Bryan Johnson called it the best neuroenhancer he's ever tried, so I can't sit here and tell you it's all bad, but I really think it should only be reserved for people who've suffered extreme cognitive damage, like former alcoholics, drug abusers, or people who have just completely rotted their own brains. Those are the people who benefit from things like cerebrolizin. I think outside of that, there's a bit too much of a risk from what I've seen online from people developing weird mutations. I think outside of that, there's a bit too much of a risk for me to want to use this because I've seen too many people talk about negative problems that happen. I'm going to rate this one a 6 out of 10, and the only reason it even got that high is some people really do report incredible findings from it, so there might be something to it. The next part of his stack that he has publicly claimed to love is the Wolverine blend BPC 157 mixed with TB500. If this isn't your first time on this page, you guys know I'm a huge fan of this combo, but I use it a little bit differently than most people, including Bryan Johnson. But I'll tell you how he used it, and it's how most of the industry is using it, which is for injury recovery. He talked about spraining his ankle at a nightclub and ran a BPC 157 TB500 stack for about 20 days in order to rehabilitate his ankle. I've used this combo for my own rehabilitation, and don't get me wrong, it's great at that, but I think the best thing it does is keep your body functioning on the rest of your stack. And what I mean by that is it's really easy to take all these different things and not really know what's working or if they're working at all. And oftentimes the number one killer of peptide supplements and anything we try to take to improve ourselves comes in inflammation, or our receptors can't handle the signal that whatever we're taking is trying to send. When BPC 157 and TB500 are at the core of the stack, this removes most of the negative chance of anything not working due to inflammation or receptor disconnection. If you're like me, you work long hours, you want to work out, you want to eat a lot of food to build muscle and do all the things, I think this is a core function for every stack, and I'm ranking this one a 9.5 out of 10, definitely using it for myself. Now, different from his physical performance, he's also got a very structured skincare routine, with the forefront of it being GHK topical serum. Rolling right along with our high school examples, imagine we've got a wooden desk chair. The chair is old, beaten, and is giving you splinters every time you sit in it. GHK is like running a palm sander on that chair, painting it fresh, and making it like brand new. This is because of GHK's incredible ability to refine collagen. Now, it's really important that people use GHK correctly. So many people think it is going to be the main collagen driver. It's going to produce all the collagen and your face is just going to look perfect. That's partially true, but it is not the main factor. You do need to give it collagen if you are lacking in it. It's not going to be the main thing that produces all the collagen. Now, if you can use a collagen supplement with the GHK, which Bryan Johnson said publicly that he does, it works 10 times better and you will see way bigger results. It's also important to note that collagen does not bind to the skin without vitamin C. So if you compare these three things together, that's when you see the real crazy skin benefits. I am a big fan of GHK Copper. I use it right now. I do the injectable one, which is a little bit more systemic than specifically targeted to the face. Bryan claims that he's had 9 years of skin age reversal. I don't think mine is that pronounced. Honestly, I had way more acne then than I do now, so I'm happy mine does not age 9 years backwards, but huge fan GHK. I would recommend this, and I would rank this one an 8.5 out of 10. Now, moving on to his prescriptions. This is where things get a little more niche. Starting with acarbose and metformin. These two are mainly in his protocol for affecting how sugar changes his body after meals. Here's what I mean by that. Imagine it's the end of the day at high school, and it's the school pickup line. There's cars and moms honking. Everybody's all over the place. This is what sugar does to our bloodstream every time we have a meal. It spikes. This is typically what causes things like inflammation and age-related decline physically and internally. Acarbose is the volunteer traffic cop who comes out and says, only one of you gets to go at a time, instead of the chaos that typically ensues. Metformin is the extra patrolman who starts taking the kids and walking them to their parents' cars instead of waiting for each car to get to the pickup spot, thus increasing the efficiency that sugar gets processed in the body without creating those spikes that are going to cause that inflammation. Less traffic backups, less inflammation are going to cause way less accidents and way less age-related problems. The benefits range pretty wide in terms of covering things like insulin sensitivity as well as AMPK production, which, as we know from things like MOTS-c, make a world of difference in our overall energy output and performance. Now, if you're asking my personal opinion, I honestly think MOTS-c works a little bit better on the AMPK activation, but for somebody who's looking for just a blanketed quality of life increase for something that's relatively cheap compared to most of the other stuff he does, I do think this stack provides a viable option, and I would rate this a 7.5 out of 10. Moving on to tadalafil, which he takes at 2.5 milligrams, which is actually an incredibly low dose. Now, if you know anything about tadalafil, you know when it's prescribed at 20 milligrams, that's what's used in compounds like Viagra, Cialis, things to make your dick hard. But when you use it in lower doses daily, like 5 milligrams, or in this case 2.5 milligrams, it improves your overall vascularity as well as your blood vessels. Picture your blood vessels like an old garden hose that got stiff and even kinked. A low dose tadalafil keeps those hoses flexible and loose, making sure all the water is flowing through. But in this case, that's our blood flowing through our veins. Why do you want better blood flow? Well, it's incredible for things like your heart health, of course, also lowering inflammation, which seems to be the theme of his longevity protocol, is reducing inflammation from every angle possible. The number one thing that I noticed from tadalafil is just better workouts and better pumps. The blood rushes to the muscle as you make contractions, which makes an overall better experience and easier to build muscle. Now, most people hear that and say, well, that's got to be bad for you. That's got to cause some sort of long-term cardiac problem. No, it actually improves your cardiac function and is safe to be taken long-term. It's better to be on it than to not be on it. Now, I do wonder why he's on a 2.5 milligram daily dose instead of 5. 5 is pretty standard across the board, and he hasn't publicly said why his is lower. Tadalafil for me is honestly a 10 out of 10. I have nothing but good things to say about it, and it doesn't really seem like there's any negatives that happen from long-term use. It only seems to get better. So, huge recommendation, huge fan of it. I do wonder why he's only at 2.5 though, so I would personally do it at 5. Coming along to one that a lot of people outside the longevity circles haven't heard of, which is rapamycin. This is something he publicly dropped pretty quickly when he was starting to get weird adverse reactions, specifically things like bodily infections and weird looking cholesterol numbers. The reason he wanted to try it is on the animal studies, it showed incredible lifespan benefits, as well as a lot of human anecdotal results have been incredible when it comes to just people's overall feeling and their longevity. But it didn't go that well for him. He wanted to use it for its mTOR inhibition, which just improves things like your insulin sensitivity and your insulin-like growth factors. But I think he was using too many slowdown signals, too many things telling his body not to react, that his body began to react adversely. But just a theory, I don't know. So I can't sit here and say that I want to take this based on the results that he got, but there are people out there that swear by this stuff, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. When you're running experiments to this degree, there's always going to be winners and there's always going to be losers. It doesn't mean that you should just stop trying things because a couple things didn't go your way. It's way better to proactively always be trying to improve your health than being fearful of making it worse. What I found really interesting is that even after his $2 million a year protocol, he still stuck to his guns and said the most impactful things in his health have been the ones that are free: his sleep, his exercise, and his diet. So when it comes to what you should add into your stack or what you should do next, always look at how you can improve those core functions. So look, if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff and you like learning about how to improve the body in every way, shape, and form, that's everything I post on this page. And I post 2 videos a week. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you don't miss a single one. And I will see you guys in the next one.